I'd really love to know down in the comments what your guys' hierarchy structure looks like for the most hated politicians that you personally have for here in Canada. For me, it goes something like Justin Trudeau, Chrystia Freeland, almost tied with Jagmeet with a close third, and then the Marco Mendicino is actually fourth or fifth, and that's kind of my hierarchy. I'd love to know what you guys think down below. Now, thankfully, Marco Mendicino is no longer really in the House of Commons. It's been a while since like what he did with the Emergencies Act and all the controversies and all the bad publicity that he brought to the Liberal Party, which is insane because the center of that attention is pretty much that hierarchy that I just listed. You got Justin Trudeau, who's like a total shithead, and then Chrystia Freeland, and I know Jagmeet isn't Liberal, but he might as well be, and so that's just kind of how things have gone. And the reason I'm mentioning Marco Mendicino is because we're going to take a look at a bit of an older clip. Now, bear with me, it's not super old, but it just shows that Chrystia Freeland and Marco Mendicino get their asses handed to them consistently throughout time. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I want to encourage you all to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. We're almost at 100,000 subscribers. It's really going to help push that channel to get there, push the videos out, and more people can actually be aware of what's happening here in politics in Canada. And then also, before I get into it, if you want to have a matching sticker like the one I have right here on my microphone, then you can find the sticker bundle 20% off. Link is down in the description or the pinned comment below if I have put it down in the comments. You got all 5 of these stickers here. You got Freeland. I know it's crazy. A lot of people don't like Freeland, but these stickers are flying off the shelves, so get them while the deal is still there, or I guess more importantly, while inventory is still there. And without further ado, let's take a look at this bit of an older clip, but it's still relevant because these a-holes deserve to get their A's handed to them, especially by Pierre Poilievre.
Oral questions.
Question orale on the leader of the opposition.
The finance minister admitted a few months ago that the deficit was fanning the flames of inflation. And a bit later, she announced that she would never eliminate the deficits that cause inflation. But there was a grain of common sense in the Liberal Party when they called for a plan to eliminate the deficit and stop fueling inflation. But the Prime Minister admitted that that motion was shot down. When will the government put an end to inflationary deficits? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
What Liberals said at our convention was that we're the optimistic party. We're the party that believes in Canada. We are a political party that understands the importance of investing in Canadians. When it comes to fiscal matters, Canada's credit rating, AAA credit rating, was upheld after our budget was...
It's always about the AAA credit rating.
Doesn't have the courage to stand up and answer it, but his finance minister said just a few months ago that deficits add oil to the inflationary fire. A few weeks later, she announced she would continue running deficits forever. There were a few courageous Liberals who showed up in a minority to their Congress to push forward a motion which would have required this government eliminate these deficits. But it was voted down, sadly, Mr. Speaker. Will the Prime Minister have the courage to stand up and answer? Will he get rid of his inflationary deficits, or does he believe that budgets will balance themselves?
Prime Minister.
He thinks budgets will balance themselves.
Really glad to hear the Leader of the Opposition recognize the courage of the Liberal Party. And indeed, the Liberal Party showed itself to be courageous and optimistic this weekend. We showed we are the party that believes in Canada. We are the party that understands the importance of investing in Canadians.
Yes,
and you know
indeed.
what, Mr. Speaker? The economic results show that that works. Canada's AAA credit rating was reaffirmed by S&P after I tabled our budget. Our economy grew by 2.5% in the first quarter, and we've added 900,000 jobs since the pandemic.
Well, Leader of the
Opposition.
Well, the Prime Minister was so courageous, he wouldn't be afraid to stand up and answer a question, would he? So courageous.
Oh.
He might throw out Beijing's agent. A week after we found out, as a nation, that this agent had been threatening the family of a Canadian MP for a vote that he cast in this House, the Prime Minister hasn't thrown him out. In fact, he extends credentials to that agent, allowing him to operate with impunity from our laws here in our country. Will the Prime Minister show some courage, answer the question, and kick this agent out today?
Yes.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well said.
Mr. Speaker, we're talking about serious issues, and I'd like us to all be serious for a minute.
Oh,
This House, we
eat it,
disagree
Freeland.
about many things. We disagree about childcare. We disagree about a price on pollution. We disagree about investing in Canadian industrial policy. But there is one thing that I know every single member of this House in every party agrees on, and that is the sanctity of democracy in Canada and around the world. And it is simply wrong to suggest in any way any member of this House is not a faithful, patriotic, democratic Canadian.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Prime Minister believes that he should stand up and say so and kick out this operative from Canada. So far, he's been hiding. He's hiding from answering my questions, but he's hiding from the regime in Beijing. This government's now saying that they cannot kick out this operative, even though he threatened the family of a Canadian MP, because they're afraid of the consequences that Beijing will impose on the Liberal government that it has supported for so long. Will the Prime Minister finally put this country first, bring home security to all MPs, and kick this operative out, yes or no?
There you go.
Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition, if you were paying attention, would have heard that my colleague, the Minister of Global Affairs, convened last week the Chinese ambassador to make it abundantly clear that we will never tolerate foreign interference. This is consistent with the strong position that Canada has taken when it comes to the conventions around what is legitimate diplomatic activity and what is not. And we will continue to put in place the authorities, the people, the resources, and the transparency to defend our democratic institutions. I just wonder why it is the Leader of the Conservative Party continues to politicize an issue that is a Canadian issue.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Because we want to protect democracy here in Canada, and the Prime Minister didn't have the courage to answer the questions.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
The minister said the government will never accept foreign interference, but that's precisely what they're doing right now, Mr. Speaker. If the government and the Prime Minister want to protect our democracy, they should expel the operative responsible for threats against a member here in Canada. Does the Prime Minister have the courage to expel that operative now? The Honourable Minister.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, last week the Foreign Affairs Minister met with the Chinese ambassador to raise legitimate issues, and when there are examples where activities go beyond what's allowed, what's legal, Canada will always condemn that. And we have already promoted transparency and the defense of democratic institutions. The Honourable Member for Salaberry-sur-Roi. Mr. Speaker, let's talk about the Century Initiative, a proposal to triple Canada's population through immigration to reach 100 million people by 2100, or the turn of the century. By the very admission of its creators, the initiative leaves out the future of French, the political clout of Quebec, or the First Nations. It's strictly economic. The Liberals have never said they were on board with this idea, but their immigration targets for 2023 to 2025 are already in line with the initiative's objectives. Mr. Speaker, if this government is making this Century Initiative its immigration policy, can they at least say so publicly? The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Yeah, admit it. Why isn't Trudeau standing up either?
For all members here to understand that we need to increase the number of newcomers, and we can protect French at the same time all across the country. That is possible, clearly, because last year, for the first time in Canadian history, we reached a target of 4.4% of new arrivals and Francophone newcomers as well. It's very important because these are the highest numbers we've ever reached in Canadian history, and it's a good thing for minority communities.